objective personality enthusiasts. So it's been a while since I've done a video, and something that's been on my mind lately is something that Dave and Shan told me. This was back in the days where when you got officially typed, they gave you an audio clip, personalized feedback. And as a lead SI, they told me that one thing I could do for my personal growth was to break 3 rules per day. Yep. So I've been thinking about that and thinking about what that means and how I can integrate that into my life without causing too much harm. So, so first of all, um, what do we mean by breaking 3 rules a day? How do you do that and not cause chaos or get yourself into trouble? Well, there's a couple of rules for breaking rules. I feel like I cannot not do my savior functions here, rules for breaking rules. I have to have rules. Okay, but anyway, you're not going to break rules that are obviously going to cause harm to other people, like drunk driving, um, you know, assault, or, or rules that are going to cause serious harm to yourself. Again, anything that's really going to threaten your physical safety. Those aren't the kinds of rules you want to break. Or rules that are going to land you in jail or cost you your job. You're not going to break those. The other kinds of rules that you should not break is breaking rules just for the sake of breaking rules if it's not giving you or other people any obvious benefit. Um, so so make sure there's a good reason why you're breaking the rules that you're breaking. Okay. So now the kinds of rules you can break and maybe should break now and then are situations where the rule is kind of more of a guideline to follow. Um, And, it's more about following the spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law. A situation where it would make good sense to make an exception. So, for example, I work in the library and we charge money for printing. And occasionally we find people that come into the library, they need to print a few pages. Sometimes they need to print out important forms or documents and they don't have money with them, or they don't have the correct change. You got a $20 bill, the machine doesn't take $20 bills. And you know what? We make an exception for those people because um it's important that they get the documents printed that they need. And you don't want to scare them away and say, "Oh, we can't print that for you." And then they're mad and they're never going to come back to the library. Um, yeah, I mean, so that's just a case where you'd make an exception. Yeah, we'll print out those pages for you. Just next time you want to print something, make sure to bring money. Um, or another example would be, you're driving. Um, it's the middle of the night and nobody else is around, but there's a red light. And do you really need to sit and wait for it to turn green? And there's no cops in sight at all. Doesn't look like there's any hidden cameras by the stoplights. I mean, why are you stopping? I mean, obviously, the stoplight is there for a reason because when there is a lot of traffic, it's a safety thing. You want to, you don't want to hit other cars, okay? But sometimes it's like, why do you need to stop at the red light? I remember when I was a student and I was such a stickler for rules. I mean, it was embarrassing. Having masculine SI at the top, we'd have papers and they'd give us a page or word limit, okay? And like it has to be between 500 and 1,000 words. And I'd count the words literally and I'd be like, okay, I got 495 words and I need 5 more and I got to put in a filler sentence so I get the limit. And I mean, it was so dumb. Um, and now I'm able to think a little more critically about it, and ask myself why are there page limits or word limits? What for? Because if you're teaching the class and you're reading these papers, you may find that if the student is writing too few words, it's probably not going to be enough to adequately express their idea or get their point across or adequately practice their essay writing skills. If it's too many words, then maybe they're too wordy and they need to practice being more concise, or it just takes too long for the teacher to read it. But really, I mean, you're going to lose points because you had 498 words instead of 500, or you had 1,002 words and it was 1,000 word limit. I mean, come on. And now I realize I can look at those things a little more flexibly. Now, let's say you're writing an essay, it's 750 words, and you decide that's perfect. You've said everything you wanted to say, and it just happens to be right within that word limit, then go with it. I mean, that's an example where it'd be foolish to break a rule for its own sake. Well, the teacher said 500 to 1,000 words, so I'm going to do 400 words because I don't want to follow the rule. That's just dumb. But let's say, you did an essay and you really thought it out and it's just under or just over that ideal range, consider just submitting the essay and go with it. Because the point is to express ideas when you're writing, to express them adequately, clearly, practice good writing skills. That's really the whole point, when you're looking at the larger picture of things. So I think as savior censors, you got to remember what's the larger picture behind these rules? Why are they there in the first place? So when you're following my blaster tip here on breaking rules, um, it may be helpful to keep a journal or just to keep track of what rules are you breaking and how did you feel when you broke those rules and what was the result of that. And I think you're going to find that most of the time nothing really bad is going to happen. um at most, maybe your boss might be slightly annoyed, but seriously, are you going to lose your job over really trivial things? I mean, if you do, then you were probably in a toxic workplace to begin with, and you should have just gotten out of there. Um, yeah, but like I said, you know, you don't have to keep a journal if you don't want to. I'm gonna keep that rule flexible, but just track it somehow, whether it's a journal or in your mind. And you may find at first that you're not breaking rules, you're not doing it, or maybe you can't think of 3 rules you could break, or maybe some days you break more than 3 rules. It's just gonna be like that. It's not always going to be 3 rules a day. The 3 rules a day is a guideline. It's more to kinda get you thinking about it, like, thinking more critically about the rules and following the spirit of the law and not the letter of the law, because that's really what this whole thing is about. So I hope you find that tip helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are there little rules that you're breaking, and or are there rules that maybe you followed and maybe you're freaking out over it because you're so worried about what's going to happen if I break that rule and it's really a trivial thing, write it in the comments. I'd like to hear your feedback on it, and I will talk to you later. Bye.